In the vast expanse of the galaxy, where stars shimmered like scattered diamonds and planets orbited in endless cycles, there existed a kingdom unlike any other. The planet Xyura was home to the Luminari, an advanced alien race whose beauty surpassed even the most radiant sunsets on Earth. Their skin glowed faintly with hues of lavender and gold, their eyes sparkled like twin galaxies, and their voices carried melodies that could soothe even the fiercest storms. Among them stood Princess Vera, the youngest daughter of Queen Nixura, ruler of the Luminari Empire. Vera was no ordinary princess. She was known for her fiery spirit and unyielding curiosity about worlds beyond Xyura. While others were content to admire the cosmos from afar, Vera yearned to explore its mysteries firsthand. Her fascination with humanity, in particular, had grown over the years after intercepting transmissions from Earth. Fragments of music, laughter, and stories that spoke of resilience and emotion. To her, humans were fascinating creatures, flawed yet full of potential, fragile but capable of extraordinary feats. The catalyst for everything came during one fateful mission near the edge of Luminari territory. A distress signal echoed through space, a cry for help from a human vessel caught in the gravitational pull of a collapsing star. Without hesitation, Vera commandeered a sleek reconnaissance cruiser and raced toward the source. What she found changed her life forever. Drifting amidst the chaos was a lone escape pod, battered but intact. Inside lay Captain Ree Kalan, a soldier from Earth's interstellar defense force. His uniform bore signs of battle, his face marked by exhaustion, but his green eyes burned with determination even as he slipped into unconsciousness. Vera hesitated only briefly before bringing him aboard her ship. It wasn't protocol, it wasn't even wise, but something deep within her compelled her to act. When Ree awoke days later in the crystalline halls of the royal palace on Xyura, confusion warred with awe. He had never seen anything like it, towering spires carved from luminous stone, gardens filled with plants that pulsed softly with light, and being so breathtakingly beautiful they seemed almost otherworldly, which of course they were. And then there was Vera herself, watching him with a mix of curiosity and amusement. "You saved me," Ree said hoarsely, struggling to sit up. His voice carried a rugged charm that contrasted sharply with the ethereal elegance surrounding him. "I suppose I did," Vera replied, her tone teasing yet warm. "Though I must admit, you didn't make it easy. Humans are quite resilient." Their initial interactions were awkward, punctuated by misunderstandings and cultural differences. Ree marveled at the Luminari's advanced technology while Vera peppered him with questions about Earth's customs, history, and emotions. Over time, however, their conversations grew deeper. Ree shared tales of camaraderie among soldiers, sacrifices made for loved ones, and dreams of peace despite constant conflict. In turn, Vera revealed glimpses of her own struggles, growing up under the weight of expectations, feeling trapped by traditions older than the stars themselves. As weeks turned into months, an undeniable bond formed between them. Ree admired Vera's courage and intelligence, qualities hidden beneath her regal exterior. For her part, Vera found herself drawn to Ree's unwavering sense of honor and his ability to find joy even in the darkest moments. They laughed together at silly jokes, debated philosophy late into the night, and discovered common ground in their shared desire for understanding across worlds. But theirs was not a connection destined to remain private. Rumors spread quickly throughout the palace, fueled by servants whispering behind closed doors and courtiers exchanging knowing glances. When word reached Queen Nixura, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. Where once there had been warmth and intrigue, now tension crackled like lightning before a storm. Queen Nixura was a figure of immense power and wisdom, revered by her people as both a leader and a guardian of tradition. She ruled with grace but also with an iron will, ensuring the prosperity and purity of the Luminari bloodline above all else. To her, alliances were strategic, marriages political, and emotions secondary to duty. When she summoned Vera to the throne room, the air felt heavy with foreboding. "Daughter," Nixura began, her voice smooth yet commanding, "you have brought a human into our sacred domain. Explain yourself." Vera stood tall, though her heart pounded wildly. "Mother, he is no ordinary human. He risked his life to protect his crew, showing bravery equal to any Luminari warrior. I couldn't leave him to die." Nixura's gaze sharpened, piercing through Vera's defenses. "And now, do you intend to keep him here indefinitely?" To defy centuries of protocol because of some fleeting infatuation. It's not infatuation. Vera shot back, surprising even herself with her vehemence. Rhys has shown me things I never knew existed. Strength, kindness, passion. He makes me want to be better, to dream bigger. Isn't that what love should do? The room fell silent, save for the faint hum of energy coursing through the walls. Nixura's expression softened ever so slightly, though her resolve remained unshaken. Love is a luxury we cannot afford, my child. Our people depend on us to maintain order, to preserve our legacy. A union with a human would destabilize everything we hold dear. Vera clenched her fists, fighting back tears. Why must it always be about control? About what others expect? Can't we choose our own paths? Before Nixura could respond, the grand doors burst open, revealing Commander Lyus, head of the Royal Guard. His armor gleamed ominously as he strode forward, flanked by 2 soldiers. "Your Majesty," he announced, bowing low, "there is unrest among the council. Some believe this situation jeopardizes our security." Nixura waved a hand dismissively. "Attend to your duties, Commander. This matter does not concern you." Lyus hesitated, then pressed on. "With respect, Your Majesty, it concerns all of us. If the princess insists on pursuing this folly, drastic measures may be necessary." Vera gasped, stepping between her mother and the commander. "You wouldn't dare harm him." Lyus met her glare evenly. "It is not my place to decide, Princess. But know this, many would see such a threat neutralized before it spreads." The tension reached a breaking point when Rhys himself entered the fray, having overheard fragments of the argument outside the throne room. Clad in borrowed Luminari attire, he cut an imposing figure despite being surrounded by towering guards. "I won't let anyone hurt Vera, or her family," he declared, his voice steady despite the odds stacked against him. Commander Lyus sneered. "Bold words for a primitive creature. You think you can stand against us?" Rhys squared his shoulders, meeting the commander's gaze without flinching. "I've faced worse odds back home. Try me." For a moment, it seemed violence might erupt. Guards raised their weapons, energy blades humming ominously, while Rhys braced himself for a fight. But before anyone could strike, Nixura stepped forward, her presence commanding silence. "Enough!" she bellowed, her voice echoing like thunder. "This ends now. Commander Lyus, stand down. My daughter, return to your chambers. And you," she turned to Rhys, her expression unreadable, "you will leave this palace immediately." "No," Vera cried, rushing to Rhys's side. "I won't let you send him away." Nixura's gaze softened, tinged with sorrow. "Vera, listen to me. The path you seek is fraught with danger, not just for you, but for everyone. Is this truly worth risking everything?" Tears streamed down Vera's cheeks as she clung to Rhys's arm. "Yes," she whispered. "It is." The queen sighed deeply, closing her eyes as if burdened by the weight of the universe. "Then so be it. But know this, if you pursue this course, you do so alone. The consequences will fall solely upon your shoulders." With that, Nixura swept out of the room, leaving behind a tense silence. Commander Lyus lingered for a moment longer, his glare promising retribution, before following after her. Alone at last, Vera and Rhys exchanged a glance, each finding strength in the other's unwavering resolve. "We'll figure this out," Rhys said softly, squeezing her hand. "Together." Vera nodded, though doubt lingered in her heart. Together, they stepped into the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. News of Vera's defiance spread like wildfire across Xyura, igniting debates in every corner of the empire. Some viewed her actions as reckless and foolish, a betrayal of the sacred traditions that had kept the Luminari strong for millennia. Others, however, saw hope in her rebellion, a chance to break free from the rigid confines of their society and embrace new possibilities. Among these supporters were a small group of rebels known as the Lumini, who had long opposed Queen Nixura's authoritarian rule. Led by Kales, a charismatic strategist with a penchant for mischief, the Lumini operated in secret, orchestrating acts of subtle resistance against the crown. They believed in a future where individual choice outweighed blind obedience, and Vera's bold stance resonated deeply with their cause. When word reached them of her decision to defy the queen, they wasted no time reaching out. Kaylees approached Vera and Rhys under cover of darkness, leading them to a hidden chamber beneath the city. The walls shimmered with bioluminescent moss, casting soft light over a gathering of rebels. Each member wore expressions ranging from cautious optimism to outright admiration. "You're taking quite the risk, Princess," Kaylees said with a smirk, extending a hand to Rhys. "Any man willing to stand up to Commander Lyus deserves respect." Rhys chuckled nervously, shaking the offered hand. "Just doing what feels right." Kaylees nodded approvingly before turning serious. "What you're attempting won't be easy. The Council is already mobilizing forces to stop you. But if you're willing to fight, we're here to help." Vera's eyes widened with gratitude. "You'd really stand with us?" "Of course," Kaylees replied firmly. "Change doesn't come without sacrifice. Besides, your story gives people hope, a reminder that even royalty can question the status quo." Over the next few days, the Lumini worked tirelessly to prepare for the inevitable confrontation. They smuggled supplies to Vera and Rhys, including cloaking devices that masked their presence from surveillance drones. They also provided intel on the Queen's plans, warning of impending raids and offering safe houses scattered throughout the capital. One evening, as Vera and Rhys reviewed maps of the city with Kaylees, a sudden alarm blared through the chamber. Red lights flashed overhead, signaling an imminent attack. Without hesitation, Kaylees sprang into action, directing his team to secure the exits while ushering Vera and Rhys toward a hidden tunnel. "This way!" he shouted, motioning for them to follow. The trio sprinted through narrow passageways, the sound of boots pounding above growing louder with each passing second. Just as they reached the exit, a squad of royal guards descended, led by none other than Commander Lyus. His blade crackled with energy as he blocked their path. "Surrender now, and perhaps mercy will be shown," Lyus growled, his voice dripping with disdain. Rhys stepped forward, shielding Vera behind him. "Not happening." Lyus lunged, his blade slicing through the air with deadly precision. Rhys barely managed to dodge, grabbing a discarded staff from the ground to parry the next strike. Sparks flew as metal clashed against wood, the battle unfolding in a blur of motion. Meanwhile, Kaylees engaged several guards, using quick footwork and clever tricks to incapacitate them one by one. Vera, unwilling to remain idle, used her knowledge of the tunnels to trigger a trap. A section of the ceiling collapsed, separating Lyus from the rest of his men. Seizing the opportunity, Kaylees ushered Vera and Rhys through the exit, sealing the passage behind them. Breathing heavily, the three emerged into the cool night air, greeted by the sight of a stolen hovercraft waiting nearby. As they climbed aboard, Kaylees grinned mischievously. "That ought to buy us some time. Now, let's get you two somewhere safe." Safe, however, proved relative. The journey ahead promised more danger, more challenges, and perhaps, just maybe, a chance to rewrite the rules of an entire galaxy. As dawn broke over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Vera and Rhys found themselves aboard the Lumini's fastest vessel, racing toward the outer reaches of Xyura. The ship hummed softly beneath their feet, its sleek design blending seamlessly with the stars around them. Though the immediate threat of capture had faded, tension still lingered in the air, mingling with the scent of scorched metal from their hasty escape. Seated side by side in the cockpit, Vera leaned her head against Rhys's shoulder, drawing comfort from his steady presence. "Do you think we'll ever find a place where we belong together?" she asked quietly, her voice tinged with uncertainty. Rhys wrapped an arm around her, pulling her closer. "We've got each other. That's enough for now." His words brought a flicker of warmth to Vera's heart, but doubts continued to gnaw at her. Images of her mother's disapproving gaze haunted her thoughts, along with memories of the life she'd left behind. Was she selfish for prioritizing her own happiness over the stability of her people? Could she truly bear the weight of defying tradition? Before she could dwell further, Kaylees interrupted their quiet moment, bounding into the cockpit with characteristic energy. "All right, lovebirds, time to focus. We're approaching the first checkpoint." "What kind of checkpoint?" Rhys asked, straightening in his seat. "A dangerous one," Kayleigh replied, tapping coordinates into the navigation console. "The Queen's enforcers patrol this sector heavily. They'll be looking for us." Vera frowned, gripping the edge of her seat. "How do we get past them?" Kayleigh flashed a confident grin. "Leave that to me. I've got a plan." True to his word, Kayleigh guided the ship toward a cluster of asteroids, weaving expertly through the rocky debris. The Lumini had rigged a decoy signal to mimic the signature of a rogue trader vessel, hoping to lure the patrols away from their actual position. As expected, several ships peeled off to investigate, leaving a narrow window of opportunity. "Now's our chance," Kayleigh announced, accelerating through the gap. "Hold on tight." The ship surged forward, engines roaring as they pushed deeper into uncharted territory. For a brief moment, it seemed they might actually succeed, but fate had other plans. A massive cruiser emerged from the shadows, blocking their path. Its hull bore the insignia of the Royal Fleet, and its weapon systems powered up ominously. "Great," Ree muttered under his breath. "Just great." On board the cruiser, Commander Lyus stood at the helm, his expression grim yet determined. He had anticipated their route and positioned his forces accordingly. Now, victory seemed within reach. "Hail them," he ordered, his voice cold and authoritative. A holographic screen flickered to life, revealing Vera's defiant face. "Stand down, Commander," she said firmly. "You won't stop us." Lyus raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. "Princess, your little rebellion ends here. Surrender peacefully, or we will open fire." Kayleigh leaned forward, interjecting before Vera could respond. "Oh, come on, Lyus. Don't you have better things to do than chase after star-crossed lovers? Like, I don't know, polishing your armor." Lyus scowled, unimpressed by the jibe. "This isn't a game, rebel. Step aside, or face the consequences." Behind the scenes, Ree busied himself preparing for the worst-case scenario. Using skills honed during his military training, he rigged makeshift explosives from spare parts scavenged during their flight. If negotiations failed, they would need every advantage they could muster. Meanwhile, Vera refused to back down. "If you fire on us, you'll turn me into a martyr. Is that what you want? To crush hope entirely?" For a split second, Lyus hesitated, his resolve wavering. But duty soon reasserted itself, hardening his features once more. Hope is irrelevant. Order must prevail. With that, he gave the order to engage. Energy blasts erupted from the cruiser's cannons, forcing Kayleigh to execute evasive maneuvers. The ship rocked violently, throwing everyone inside against the walls. Alarms blared as shields began to fail, sparks flying from overloaded circuits. "We can't keep this up much longer," Kayleigh shouted, frantically adjusting controls. Ree grabbed Vera's hand, pulling her toward the rear compartment. "Time to go Plan B." Plan B involved ejecting from the main ship in a smaller pod designed for rapid descent onto nearby moons. It was risky, especially given the proximity of enemy vessels, but it represented their only chance of survival. With seconds to spare, they launched the pod, hurtling through space as explosions lit up the void behind them. As they plummeted toward the surface below, Vera clung to Ree, her mind racing with questions. Would they survive the landing? What awaited them on the moon's desolate terrain? And perhaps most importantly, how far would they have to run before finding sanctuary? Despite the chaos swirling around them, one thing remained clear: their bond had only grown stronger. Together, they faced the unknown, driven by love, courage, and an unshakable belief in a brighter future. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it as one. The pod crash-landed with a deafening thud, sending plumes of dust spiraling into the air. Vera groaned, her body aching from the impact, as Ree helped her unbuckle the safety harness. Outside, the landscape stretched endlessly, barren and gray under a pale, distant sun. Jagged rocks jutted from the ground like ancient teeth, casting long shadows that danced eerily in the dim light. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional hiss of steam escaping from the damaged pod. "Well, this looks cozy," Ree quipped, trying to lighten the mood as he surveyed their surroundings. His attempt at humor earned him a weak smile from Vera, who winced while rubbing her sore shoulder. "I've seen worse," she admitted, though her tone betrayed a hint of unease. Growing up in the opulent halls of the royal palace had not prepared her for such desolation. Still, she squared her shoulders, refusing to let fear take hold. "Let's assess our situation." They stepped out cautiously, boots crunching against the fine layer of ash coating the ground. The pod systems were fried beyond repair, leaving them stranded without means of communication or transportation. Supplies were limited: a few ration packs, a canteen of water, and a single emergency beacon designed to emit a signal detectable only by Lumini operatives. Survival instincts kicked in as they began constructing a makeshift shelter using debris from the wreckage. As night fell, temperatures plummeted, forcing them to huddle close for warmth beneath layers of thermal blankets salvaged from the pod. Despite the biting cold, neither could sleep. Instead, they talked about their fears, their hopes, and the lives they had left behind. Vera confessed her lingering guilt over abandoning her mother and her people, while Rhys shared stories of battles fought and friendships forged during his time in Earth's defense force. Their conversation wove a tapestry of shared vulnerability, binding them even closer. By morning, exhaustion weighed heavily on both of them, but determination burned brighter than ever. They set out to explore the area, searching for any signs of resources or potential threats. Hours passed in tense silence, interrupted only by the occasional rustle of wind or distant rumble of shifting rock. Just as despair began to creep in, they stumbled upon something unexpected: an abandoned mining outpost. The structure loomed ahead, its metallic frame corroded and crumbling but still standing. Windows were shattered, and vines of strange glowing flora crept along the walls, giving the place an eerie luminescence. Cautiously, they approached, weapons drawn, Rhys wielding a makeshift spear crafted from scrap metal, and Vera clutching a compact energy pistol taken from the pod. Inside, the air smelled stale and metallic, laced with a faint tang of decay. Dust coated every surface, muffling their footsteps as they moved deeper into the facility. To their surprise, they discovered remnants of civilization: crates filled with preserved food, tools scattered across workbenches, and even a functioning generator tucked away in a corner. Someone had once called this place home, though whether those inhabitants had fled or perished remained unclear. "This could be our lifeline," Rhys said, examining the generator with a critical eye. "If we can get this running again, we might have heat, light, and maybe even a way to contact Kaylee's." Vera nodded, her spirits lifting slightly. "Let's get to work." Hours later, after painstaking effort, the generator roared to life, flooding the outpost with a warm, golden glow. For the first time since their arrival, they allowed themselves a moment of relief. Sitting cross-legged on the floor, sharing a meal of dried rations, they laughed softly at the absurdity of their predicament. "You know," Rhys mused, leaning back against a wall, "back on Earth, people would pay good money to visit a place like this. Experience the thrill of surviving on an alien moon." Vera chuckled, shaking her head. "I'm sure they'd regret it within 5 minutes." Their laughter faded into comfortable silence, punctuated only by the soft hum of the generator. Yet even in this fragile haven, danger lurked just beyond the horizon. Unbeknownst to them, the Queen's forces had traced their trajectory and were closing in fast. Somewhere far above, Commander Lyus plotted their capture, vowing to bring an end to the chaos wrought by the rebellious princess and her human companion. But for now, amidst the ruins of an old world, Vera and Rhys found solace in each other's company. Love, resilience, and humor became their armor against adversity, sustaining them through trials yet to come. Whatever the future held, they faced it together, forging a bond stronger than any obstacle fate could throw their way. Back aboard the royal cruiser, Commander Lyus paced the command deck, frustration simmering beneath his composed exterior. The earlier skirmish had been a calculated move, intended to box Vera and Rhys into a corner. Yet somehow, they had slipped through his grasp once again, vanishing into the vast emptiness of space. It was infuriating, not just because of their audacity, but because their defiance struck at the very core of what he believed in: order, loyalty, and the sanctity of tradition. "Sir, we've detected traces of ionized particles consistent with their craft," one of his officers reported, interrupting his brooding. "They appear to have ejected a smaller pod during the engagement. Likely headed for one of the moons." Lyus halted mid-step, his sharp eyes narrowing. "Which moon?" "Delta 7, the officer replied, gesturing toward a holographic map projected in the center of the room. The image zoomed in on a desolate satellite orbiting the outer rim of Xylora's system. Scans indicate minimal atmosphere and no known settlements. Chances are slim they'll survive long without assistance. A slow, predatory smile spread across Lyus's face. "Excellent. Prepare a landing party. We'll retrieve the princess and eliminate the human." The officer hesitated, glancing nervously at his superior. "Eliminate, sir? Are you certain that's wise? Killing the human could provoke unrest among the populace, especially given recent sympathies toward the Lumini." Lyus waved a dismissive hand. "Unrest is manageable. Sympathizers are cowards who scatter when faced with authority. As for the human, his presence is a disease, a contagion threatening the purity of our society. Removing him sends a message: defiance will not be tolerated." With orders issued, the cruiser adjusted course, descending toward Delta 7 with lethal precision. On board, Lyus reviewed tactical plans, envisioning how best to corner his prey. He knew Vera well enough to anticipate her resourcefulness. She wouldn't go down without a fight. But he also understood her weaknesses, her compassion, her stubbornness, and most importantly, her attachment to the human. Leveraging those vulnerabilities would ensure success. Meanwhile, aboard another vessel lurking in the shadows of the asteroid belt, Kaylee's monitored the situation with growing concern. The Lumini's network of spies had intercepted communications detailing Lyus's pursuit, confirming the commander's intent to hunt down Vera and Ree. Time was running out. "Can we intercept them?" asked Mira, Kaylee's second-in-command, her voice taut with urgency. She stood beside him in the cramped control room, staring at the same data stream scrolling across multiple screens. Kaylee's shook his head grimly. "Not directly. Lyus has too much firepower. If we try to intervene openly, we risk exposing the entire rebellion. No, we need subtlety." Mira frowned, crossing her arms. "So what's the plan? Let them walk into a trap." "No," Kaylee's replied firmly. "We'll give them a fighting chance. Deploy the decoy drones. They'll draw Lyus's forces away temporarily. Then send a small team to Delta 7 under cloak. Once we locate Vera and Ree, we extract them quietly." It was a risky strategy, fraught with variables beyond their control. But Kaylee's had faith in Vera's ingenuity and Ree's tenacity. Together, they might just hold out long enough for reinforcements to arrive. Hours later, as the royal cruiser touched down on Delta 7, Lyus led his elite squadron into the harsh terrain, scanners sweeping for signs of life. The environment was unforgiving. Icy winds whipped across jagged cliffs, and visibility was reduced to mere meters due to swirling dust clouds. Still, Lyus pressed onward, driven by a singular purpose. "We're closing in," one of his lieutenants reported, pointing toward a cluster of structures visible in the distance. Those ruins matched descriptions of old mining facilities. "They'll likely seek shelter there." Lyus nodded, signaling for his team to advance cautiously. What he didn't account for, however, was the element of surprise waiting within those ruins. Hidden traps rigged by Ree, combined with Vera's intimate knowledge of Luminari technology, turned the tables momentarily. Explosions erupted as they neared the outpost, scattering Lyus's forces and buying precious time for the fugitives. Inside the outpost, Ree and Vera prepared for battle, arming themselves with whatever tools and weapons they could cobble together. They knew this fight wouldn't be easy, but surrender wasn't an option. "You ready?" Ree asked, handing Vera a modified blaster rifle. She nodded, determination blazing in her eyes. "Let's show them what happens when you mess with a princess and her soldier." As the first wave of attackers breached the entrance, chaos erupted. Energy bolts ricocheted off walls, and shouts echoed through the corridors. Amidst the turmoil, hope flickered like a flame in the darkness, a fragile yet unyielding beacon guiding them forward. Through the cacophony of battle, Vera and Ree fought side by side, their movements synchronized like a dance choreographed by desperation. Ree wielded his makeshift spear with surprising skill, deflecting incoming blasts and creating openings for counterattacks. Vera, meanwhile, relied on her agility and precision, firing bursts of energy that sent enemies sprawling. Together, they carved a path through the chaos, retreating deeper into the labyrinthine corridors of the outpost. At one point, Rhys paused to reload, his hands trembling slightly from exertion. "You okay?" he asked, glancing at Vera, who was breathing heavily but otherwise unharmed. She nodded, brushing sweat-soaked hair from her face. "Never better." Their momentary respite was shattered as a loud crash echoed behind them, the sound of reinforced doors being blown apart. Lyus himself strode through the smoke, his blade glowing ominously. "Enough games," he snarled, advancing with deadly intent. Vera stepped forward, raising her weapon. "Stay back, Lyus. You don't want to do this." "Oh, but I do," he replied, his voice dripping with venom. "Your rebellion ends here." Before either could make a move, a sudden explosion rocked the building, sending debris raining down from above. Through the haze emerged Kayleigh and a small team of Lumin operatives, armed and ready. "Miss us," Kayleigh quipped, firing a volley of shots that forced Lyus and his men to take cover. "About time," Rhys shouted, grinning despite the dire circumstances. Kayleigh tossed Rhys a fresh power cell for his weapon. "Thought you two might need a hand. Now, let's get out of here before reinforcements arrive." The group regrouped quickly, navigating the maze-like passages until they reached a hidden exit. Outside, a cloaked shuttle waited, its engines idling quietly. As they sprinted toward safety, Lyus emerged once more, shouting orders to his remaining forces. Blasts streaked past them, narrowly missing their marks, but the shuttle's automated defenses activated, laying down suppressive fire. Once inside, the hatch sealed shut, and the shuttle ascended rapidly, leaving Delta 7 behind. Through the viewport, Vera watched as the barren landscape shrank into the distance, replaced by the infinite expanse of stars. Exhaustion washed over her, but relief flooded her heart. For now, they were safe. Back on Xyura, Queen Nixura received updates on the failed mission, her expression unreadable. Deep down, however, a seed of doubt began to sprout. Perhaps her daughter's defiance wasn't merely rebellion, it was evolution. And maybe, just maybe, change wasn't something to fear after all. The news reached Queen Nixura in the quiet solitude of her private chambers, delivered by a trembling courtier who dared not meet her gaze. The message was simple yet seismic. Princess Vera carried the child of Ree Kalan, the human soldier whose very existence had ignited upheaval across the Luminary Empire. For a moment, time seemed to freeze as Nixura absorbed the weight of these words. Her fingers tightened around the crystalline goblet she held, knuckles whitening with restrained emotion. "Are you certain?" she asked finally, her voice low and measured, though an undertone of disbelief lingered beneath the surface. "Yes, your majesty," the courtier stammered, bowing deeply. "The Lumini confirmed it through their network. They say the princess is unharmed and thriving." Nixura dismissed the messenger with a curt wave, retreating further into the shadows of her chamber. She stood before the massive window that overlooked the sprawling gardens of the palace, her reflection ghostly against the shimmering vista beyond. Thoughts swirled chaotically in her mind: anger, fear, pride, and something softer, more maternal, tugging at the edges of her resolve. This was no mere rebellion anymore. This was life itself, a new beginning forged from defiance. For weeks, Nixura wrestled with the implications. To publicly acknowledge Vera's union with Rhys would mean legitimizing everything she had fought so hard to prevent: the blending of two vastly different species, the erosion of centuries-old traditions, and the potential destabilization of her empire. Yet to deny the truth, to cast out her own daughter and grandchild, felt equally untenable. It was a dilemma without easy answers, a crossroads where duty clashed violently with love. In the end, it was not politics or strategy that swayed her decision but a memory long buried beneath the burdens of leadership. She recalled holding baby Vera for the first time, marveling at the tiny being who bore the promise of infinite possibilities. That same awe now stirred within her, tempered by the realization that change, however daunting, was inevitable. The future could not be contained within the rigid confines of the past. When word spread that the Queen intended to address the council and the entire populace, a collective hush fell over Xyura. Citizens gathered in public squares, their faces illuminated by holographic screens broadcasting the royal announcement. Within the grand hall of the palace, dignitaries and advisors assembled, whispering anxiously among themselves. At the center of it all stood Nixura, resplendent in her ceremonial robes, her expression unreadable yet commanding absolute attention. "My people," she began, her voice resonating with authority. "We stand today at a pivotal moment in our history, a moment that challenges us to look beyond ourselves and embrace the unknown. My daughter, Princess Vera, has chosen a path that defies convention, one that tests the boundaries of what we believe defines us as Luminari." A murmur rippled through the crowd, some nodding in agreement while others exchanged skeptical glances. Nixura raised a hand, silencing them instantly. She carries within her the hope of a new era, an era shaped not solely by tradition but by understanding, compassion, and unity. While her choices may have unsettled many, they also remind us of the values we hold dear: courage, resilience, and the pursuit of harmony. Therefore, I declare that henceforth, Captain Ree Kalan shall be recognized as consort to the princess, and their unborn child will inherit the rights and privileges due to any heir of the Luminari throne. The proclamation sent shockwaves throughout the empire. Cheers erupted in some quarters, particularly among those sympathetic to the Lumini and the ideals they championed. Elsewhere, protests flared, with staunch traditionalists decrying the decision as sacrilege. But Nixura remained steadfast, knowing that leadership often required making unpopular decisions for the greater good. Far away, on a secluded moon where Vera and Ree had found temporary sanctuary, the couple watched the broadcast together, their hands intertwined. Tears streamed down Vera's cheeks as she listened to her mother's words, each sentence a balm to wounds she hadn't realized still lingered. Ree squeezed her hand gently, his own eyes glistening with emotion. "She's accepting us," Vera whispered, almost unable to believe it. "After everything." Ree smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "She loves you. And maybe, just maybe, she sees how much we love each other." Vera leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder. "Do you think it'll work? Peacefully, I mean." "I don't know," Rhys admitted. "But if anyone can make it happen, it's you. You've already changed so much, for me, for your people, for everyone." Their return to Xyura was met with mixed reactions, but under Nixura's guidance, efforts were made to bridge divides. Public ceremonies celebrated the union of human and alien, emphasizing themes of unity and shared destiny. Scholars and scientists worked tirelessly to ensure the health and well-being of Vera and her child, studying the unique biological dynamics of their bond. Slowly but surely, skepticism gave way to curiosity, and hostility softened into cautious optimism. Months later, in the heart of the royal palace, a new chapter began. Vera gave birth to a radiant infant, a boy whose lavender skin shimmered faintly like his mother's, while his green eyes sparkled with the same determination as his father's. As Nixura cradled her grandson for the first time, she felt a profound sense of peace. The future was uncertain, yes, but it was theirs to shape, together. And so, amidst challenges and triumphs, Vera and Rhys built a life rooted in love, forging a legacy that transcended worlds. Their story became a symbol of hope, reminding all who heard it that even the starkest differences could give rise to something extraordinary.